It's not a precise science. It's very adaptable. Anyone can, you can change it and alter it to any plan you like. Just to go over the elements, we just got a basic trailer with an axle, and we put dual wheels on it just to have a little less weight on the pastures when they're a bit damp. Cheap Chinese pump, open impeller. It's an 8 horsepower pump. For that setup, it uses about a litre of petrol, I guess. It's got the main outlet from the tank, suction into the pump. It's got a recycle here that goes into the agitator. The agitator is a PVC tube with 8mm holes in it, pointing across the bottom so that we get a rolling boil at the end of it, just to make sure that the nozzles, the holes don't block. We've got a recycle line which we can adjust the pressure in that cycle, and then we've got the line off to the sprays. You might close up the nozzles there. They're super simple. They're just a 5mm half pipe slot, cleaned out, and it sprays out in a fan shape. And these two, the fan is about 7 metres wide by the time it hits the ground. So it takes about 20 minutes to pump out 1,000 litres at 10 k's an hour, and about a 6 to 7 metre spread on the sprays. You do about 2 hectares in that time. Now, that's not mandatory. You can do 1 hectare, you can go over it twice. It's entirely up to what you're trying to achieve. What we're trying to achieve here is foliar feeding of soluble dilute fertiliser on the leaves. We're spreading semi-soluble or not insoluble, but very light, sparsely soluble soft rock phosphate. The soft rock phosphate doesn't affect the soil fungi, so it's good for that, and it contains a lot of silica, which is also a necessary nutrient in the pasture. We're also putting out a whole bunch of trace minerals, not as many as I'd like, but at this stuff there's copper sulfate, boron, zinc, potassium, a bit of magnesium, and they're all in very dilute amounts just to aid the metabolism of the photosynthesis. That's it. It's very simple, so it doesn't take long to fill. First we have is a bit of seed. This is my stock of magic potions in here. A fine seed I'm putting in. This is chicory. About maybe 500 grams of chicory. And at this stage I haven't got all the seeds I want to trial, but I'm just doing chicory, and this is Titilla rye. So I'll put about 2 kilos of that in. Now we've got a little magic potion here. sulphate, sulphur, $250 of that, copper sulphate, sulphur, boron, zinc, sulphate, bit of dolomite, soft rock phosphate that I've had for a long time, been wanting to put out, but when we first put it out it covered us in dust and nearly choked us, so some of it's in lumps, but those lumps will break up. Uh, 12 scoops makes about 2.5 kilos. 12 scoops of after grade. I've had these here for a couple of years. We haven't put any fertiliser out. 4 or 5 years, but I just guessed the urea. It can go in big lumps that dissolve very quickly. Some humates. These have been around for a long time too, so they've got a few rocks in them unfortunately, so I've got to sieve them out. Because I'm going into a pasture that doesn't have a lot of clover, it's sort of inundated with clover around the farm generally, but I've got some old coated white clover. It's been around for a long time, but it's probably okay. The reason I'm sieving it is these have been floating around here and they've got leaves and stuff in them, and I don't want particles bigger than 5 mil. It's got a tendency to block the nozzles. Now we put that mixture in. Quite a vigorous agitation in there, like a rolling boil. These will get dissolved. In that run there we put out about a kilo of white clover, half a kilo of chicory and about 2 kilos of tortilla rye. As we progress, we'll try a whole range of seeds. I think rye is probably the upper limit of the seed size for these nozzles. If we wanted to put out bigger stuff, we'd have to design some bigger nozzles, but I think when you come to peas and those sorts of things, I think they're probably better off put out with a spinner or something like that. We can also add compost tea and biology into this, and once we got pastures where there's been a fair bit of growth of unpalatable grass or dry grass and that sort of thing, that helps to digest that and bring it down for the soil biology and the worms. This paddock was grazed about a week ago now. It's got a bit of clover coming back, but normally my protocol is to is the day after grazing to mulch and then to hydro spray. The idea is to get that foliar feed on the residual leaves, or first of all to knock down the weeds, any weeds and unpalatable grass that the cattle don't eat, and then to hit the palatable, nutritious foliage with foliar spray. After mulching, everything comes at a scratch start again, and then it sits for 90 days or grows for 90 days. So at that stage, we've got good root growth and good foliage, and a fair bit of lignans and lignous tough material to give the a bit of stuff for the cattle to chew on. Well, we just felt the grass to see that it's moist, and with the fertiliser, with the soluble fertilisers, it's only a foliar feed, so we're really trying to minimise the amount of fertiliser added and minimise the amount of inputs and reduce the effect of putting large amounts of soluble fertiliser out, which will just dissolve and wash away in the first heavy rainfall and runoff. And this is where we lose these nutrients to the wetlands and to the estuaries and cause eutrophication and pollution of these areas. So less is more. Yeah, this pasture is about halfway through its cycle. It's a lot of self-seeded rye and some oats, and quite obviously quite a lot of clover. But you can see now that the amount of clover flour that's there will give us a good crop of clover the next time we get water. Basically these pastures have not been fertilised to any extent for 5 years, except for a quick hydro seed about 6 weeks ago. Hydro seeder spread just a bit of rye seed and a bit of chicory. Now the chicory hasn't appeared. The rye, well, I don't know whether it's self-seeded rye or spread rye, but there's a reasonable amount of rye here, and you can see from that sort of thing, it's about a foot tall at that stage. And the main thing is water. Number one fertiliser, 99% of all fertility is water.